The UCF Knights head into Game 4 versus K-State with a heavy heart but an unbroken spirit.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for making Locked On UCF your first listen of every day. Turn us up, turn us on, but turn us down a little bit today. We're going to open today's show honoring UCF offensive line coach Shawn Clark, who passed away tragically at the young age of 50. And then we'll get into talking about preparing for K-State, and then a little QB talk to close the show. Andrew, start at the top here. We reported a lot of people did that Coach Shawn Clark was not well. He was taking some time off with some undisclosed health issues. We're not going to report any details on his actual issues. I don't think that really matters in this moment. But we learned today that he has passed. And I want to read a statement from the university on his passing, and then I want to give the floor to you to talk about somebody who was not just a coach, right? He was a man and a father and a husband, and he was a lot of things to a lot of people. And I think that's reflected here in the university statement. UCF released this statement saying Shawn was so much more than a coach. He was a remarkable man, husband, a father who cared deeply about his players and his staff. Said UCF head coach Scott Frost. The reaction of our players and coaches to the news this morning is a testament to Shawn's character and the impact he had on every life that he touched. He was loved. Our thoughts and our prayers are with his wife, Janelle, and his children, Gianna and Braxton. We are here to support them and will continue to keep them in our hearts and prayers. A veteran coach with more than 2 decades of experience, Coach Clark joined UCF in December of 2024 following a successful tenure as head coach at Appalachian State, where he compiled a 40-24 record across 5 seasons. His App State tenure was highlighted by a 10-win season in 2021 and 3 bowl wins. Coach Clark's team earned multiple Sun Belt East Division titles and developed some of the nation's top offensive line units, with his 2018 and 2019 groups ranked among the best in the country. We are heartbroken by Shawn's passing, said UCF Vice President and Director of Athletics Terry Mahajer. He brought passion, integrity, and a genuine love for people to everything he did. Shawn will be remembered not only for his impact on the game of football, but also for the relationships he built and the example he set as a husband and father. Our deepest condolences go out to his wife and his children during this difficult time. They finished up saying that as a player, Clark was a 2-time All-American and 3-time All-Conference selection on the offensive line at App State, where the Mountaineers posted a 45-16 record during his career. He later built his coaching resume with roles at Eastern Kentucky, Purdue, Kent State, and App State, where he guided multiple All-Americans and NFL draft picks. Clark graduated from App State with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice in 1998 and earned a master's in education from Louisville in 2003. He is survived by his wife, Janelle, again, of course, and their 2 children, Gianna and Braxton. Andrew, it's a tough thing losing a member of the family of the Knight Nation. He meant a lot to a lot of people, and in talking to people around the program, it was clear that his effect goes way beyond UCF. Everywhere he went, he touched people. And, I'm saddened by this news, as I know you are, but, somebody who understands, Knight Nation probably better than anybody I know. Talk to us about Shawn Clark and the gaping hole that he's going to leave in the heart of the UCF Knights and the world around him.
Well, a great example to show the character of Shawn Clark was his post-game interview after the Mountaineers defeated Texas A&M, who was, I believe, a top 10 ranked team at the time. And, he talked about how it was important for the school, and he started tearing up while talking about it just on the field after the game. Just the emotions were kind of just getting to him. The school that he went to Appalachian State. He was the head coach there. So the value that he put on the program and the players and everyone who contributed, it just shows the character of the man. He knew he was one of not too many offensive linemen who have become head coaches, and he took that very seriously and wanted his resume to be something that could benefit other linemen. And I have deep respect for that. I was an offensive lineman myself, so before I stopped growing, so I have a biased love for other offensive linemen as far as their career trajectory and the things that they do. 50 years is very young. It's our average age keeps going up, and it's very young in the world of college sports in general, and college football, in particular. These head coaches can go into their late 60s, early 70s. So, I mean, at 50, that's still very young. I mean, Scott Frost is early 50s. They're age-wise not really much different. So you had online, before UCF came out with anything official, a lot of people out of the Sun Belt, Troy, Appalachian State. There was even others who worked with him who moved on to other schools, just pouring out online. That's the kind of impact Shawn Clark had on the community around him, former players, administrators. I mean, he had a very positive effect, and he had a positive effect at UCF. At the post-game press conference on Saturday, they were all asked, Scott Frost and all the players that were brought out were asked, about Shawn Clark. And they basically all said the same thing, not verbatim, but basically, we're doing it for him. We're doing this for him. And, now they still are, and they still can. Right now, today is a day of mourning and reflection. And I'm glad the school canceled the typical Monday conference. This neither the time nor the place. They have that they've rescheduled for Wednesday, which obviously life does have to move on. But this also gives the program a chance to galvanize, bring them together, put a patch on the a helmet sticker or something that they now have a rallying cry to go with. Because the question is, what do you do after this? I mean, everyone handles death differently. It's the most unique aspect of life is how we all eventually will move on, but it's how everyone around us reacts to it. And the team is at a bit of a crossroads, and do they embrace what happened and use this as a way of do this for Shawn, or do the emotions get the better? And neither are wrong, because we handle death differently, every one of us. Some look to music and the arts. Some look to physical activity to take out their emotions. Some sit in just quiet reflection. We all have different ways to handle this. But the one thing that we know for sure is, one, the players did not take this news well.
No.
And two, that shows how loved Shawn Clark was to this program, and as we've seen online, to the college football world at large. I mean, just the Big 12 came out with something. Fans left and right have been extending a welcoming hand of sympathy towards Knight Nation, and it's a reminder. This goes beyond sports. This also makes people question their own mortality, especially coaches and people who are older than Shawn. Shawn was only 50 years old. That's young.
Very young. Yeah.
It makes you question your own mortality. I'm 42. I'm not that far behind. And it's if that could happen to him at 50, I'm only a few years behind that. That could happen to me. And, it's a very tough pill to swallow.
As someone who is also 42, I can tell you, it's 50 is just way too young. I want to move on, but I do want to say this, in speaking to the players that were coached by him on this team. You can honor this coach in his life's work by going out and by blocking your butt off, right? by playing your heart out, by leaving everything on the practice field, everything on the field, every workout, every single rep. Leave it on the field for Shawn Clark, because from what I gathered, and I didn't know him personally, not only, as, media and journalists, we do our homework, but it was clear that this was somebody who affected the world around him in a positive way. And, if you want to honor his memory, take what is his life's work and go out and show why he was one of the best at what he did. And I think that, I'd like to see some sort of uniform, kind of token to his memory for the rest of the season. It's not about football, right? So I don't want anybody to hear that. This is not about football. This is bigger than football. It's bigger than a sports talk show. None of this matters. What mattered was this man's life. And so in his death, I think that we can all honor him, by supporting those who he left behind, and the UCF Knights can honor him by leaving it all on the field. I think that's what Shawn would have wanted. But speaking of leaving it all on the field, they've got another game coming up. It's the Big 12 opener versus K-State. Andrew, the Knights are entering conference play 3-0, a spot a lot of people didn't think they'd be in. We're going to talk about preparing for the Wildcats next on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And that's why Square is there to support small businesses in helping them in their mission to help grow their communities. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhoods businesses around the world. You can go to square.com /go/locked-on-college to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, we'll see you in the neighborhood. Also want to thank our friends at Game Time. College football is back. We couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why we use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you get. Panoramic seat views cannot be beat. You can get those on the Game Time app to know exactly where you're sitting before you show up, so you know how much bang you're getting for your buck. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create a code account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thank you for sharing that. I thought it was well said there on Coach Shawn Clark. We'll continue to honor his memory on this show for the rest of the season. But as I mentioned, great way to honor Shawn Clark is by going out on Saturday and getting the win in his name. I think that's what he would have wanted. Kansas State, a team that a lot of people felt like could be contending for the Big 12 crown. They sit at 1-3. Andrew, I didn't vote UCF top 4 in the league, but I also didn't have them next to last. So I want to just remind everybody where the Big 12 Locked On hosts voted the Knights. 15th. 1-5. 1-5. 8 plus 7. 11 plus 4. 12 plus 3. 1 plus 14. 15th. Ahead of only the Arizona Wildcats, a team, by the way, that beat Kansas State. Kansas State voted second in this poll. A lot of people are regretting that vote now. I watched the Big 12 opener in Dublin. Yesterday we had our friend Christian from Locked On K-State to talk a little bit about the Wildcats and quarterback Avery Johnson. If you're UCF, it's not going to be a shock the world win because of how K-State started the season. I watched every second of K-State, Iowa State in Dublin. And I got to tell you, that was a matchup of ranked teams. Boy, was it terrible football. Neither one of those teams looked very good. It was just two bad teams trying to figure out who was worse than the other. If you're UCF, you can beat K-State by being disciplined and by Tayven Jackson who we'll talk about in the next segment, continuing on his 70-plus completion percentage tear through the games that he's played in. But I think the Knights are going to win this game. I know I said that a lot last year. However, where I was not wrong was in the potential and talent of that team. Now, I've been very consistent throughout the offseason in saying that I felt like UCF was better. They had better talent than their 4-8 record. May not have been conference champs, but certainly 6-6, 7-5. If the ball bounces right, maybe even 8-4 if Gus Malzahn is not your coach. So now, if you're UCF, you got to go out and you got to win a game like this on the road. And man, for all the negative Nancy's that think that Kane Archer is going to decommit because somebody's going to give him $1 million, beat K-State and you can strengthen the message that wait until we get you. If we're doing this now, wait until we get you here. Imagine what the Knights can do in the Big 12. They got to go out and beat the Wildcats, man. I think they can do it.
Well, you look at Kansas State's schedule and what they've done. Every game was a one-score game. Be it win or lose. They lost to Iowa State by 3. They lose to Army by 3. They lose to Arizona by 6, and they beat FCS member North Dakota by a field goal.
That's a bad team.
These are all 50-50 moments. Iowa State, obviously, that was against a good team. Because say what you want, even though Iowa State kind of played down on this one, Matt Campbell still runs a pretty good ship over there. But Army's not a good team. Arizona's not a good team. And the funny thing is, ESPN's, their matchup indicator has Kansas State at a slight favor, and that's because they're at home. Manhattan is a tough place to play.
Yep.
Say what you want. It's not easy. But 3 of their first 4 games were on the road. We're at home. Only Arizona was on the road. So they went 2 and Iowa State really was a neutral game. I guess you can't count that. But North Dakota and Army were home games. Was the home field advantage really ever there? If you're beating North Dakota by a field goal, you're losing to Army, who is having a rough go themselves. I'm not convinced. The funny thing is, you look statistically at Kansas State, and their offense really isn't all that bad. They just can't put it together. Avery Johnson, 851 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. So, it's pretty efficient. UCF's running game is nothing to write home about. Neither is Kansas State. This is going to be a battle of the air, in my opinion, which is what happened against North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I don't think Kansas State is going to make the same mistake that North Carolina, because North Carolina just proved they're poorly coached. Doesn't matter how much talent you have, you're poorly coached. Went in with a very bad strategy. Their strategy was shut down the deep pass. Okay, well, Tayven Jackson isn't the deep ball passer, so they basically gift wrapped the offense to him. I don't think Kansas State is going to make that same mistake. So you're going to have to find another wrinkle. But I know we'll talk more about Jackson himself, but the offense as a whole, I think has room for wrinkles. And with the passing of Clark, I think is going to inspire them, and that makes her a very dangerous team. The last time UCF had to play a game, shortly after the passing of one of their own was when Otis Anderson was murdered in 2021 ahead of the bowl game that they played against Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl, and they played some inspired football.
Yeah,
they had his uniform out there, and basically they ran with him as if he was on the field, even though he actually had finished his college career the prior year. Yeah. It's a galvanizing moment, and that can take a home field advantage away from Kansas State.
Andrew, this is the third worst scoring defense in the Big 12 right now. They are the fourth worst rushing defense, and they are the sixth best passing offense. Passing defense. And in terms of total yards per game, they are the fifth worst in the league right now. I don't know what else to say about this team other than bad teams play up to the competition and down to the competition at the same time and still find ways to lose both. And so
last year.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is their year. I think they are the surprise. They could be the Utah of this season. It's going to be a rough go. I think it's going to be a rough go for them. Now, I talked about the defense there, but offensively, as you mentioned, they're not. It's
they're not bad.
Yeah, I mean, look, they are the third worst scoring offense in the league at 24.3 points per game. Yikes. There's a real opportunity here for there's a real
what makes it so weird, because they can rack up the yards, but they can't convert it into anything.
Yeah,
this is such a we had the problem last year with UCF where they can they would do stuff and then they would get nothing out of it. And it's like what are they doing? I mean, this is like deja vu. You have a team that can pass the ball, can move the ball downfield, but can't score. Can't put points on the board. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters is can you score? And if you can't, well, you could have a 1,000-yard receiver or a 3,000-yard passer. It doesn't matter if you can't convert it into points.
Yeah, look, if they hit their averages, they're going to lose. And I mean, not only are they going to lose, they're going to get their ass kicked. 320 yards. If they have 320 yards in this football game, they're going to lose to UCF. I don't care if they're at home. I like what UCF is doing. Now, I don't want to sound too disrespectful to Kansas State, but they're off to a horrid start to their season relative to their preseason expectations. If you're UCF, you're off to a dream start where you're figuring things out and gaining momentum as you go, while the expectation was 15th. So I warned anybody who would listen, UCF is not as bad as the record indicated. Remember, this was an offense that produced the second best back in college football last year. I think he was sixth in yards, but he was second in yards per carry at 6.8. Only Ashton Genty was better at a full 7 yards per carry. And they may not have RJ Harvey back there, but they got Tayven Jackson. And I think that with Scott Frost and Tayven Jackson and last year's O-line and RJ Harvey, this team contends for the Big 12. I love this squad. That I'm loving this collection of players every week that goes by, where we learn a little bit more about them and they are developed. You should be absolutely terrified of UCF on your schedule for the rest of this season if they continue to improve the way they are, because they still have not touched their ceiling. So if you're UCF, 1-0 every week, treat this like your Super Bowl. I don't care if they're 1-3. Treat it like they are the defending conference champs and go into Manhattan and kick their butt. If they win this game, they should be firmly inside the top 25, I think, in the country. I
gotta disagree on that one, though.
I can get how tentative it can be, but the way that the rest of college football is shaping out right now, Like there's 4. I mean, if 0-2 Notre Dame was still ranked, man, I don't care who they lost to. They were still ranked.
It's Notre Dame, though.
A 4-0 UCF should be just inside that top 25. So I've talked a lot about hope, and for fans, it's okay to hope. And every week we're seeing why more and more it's okay to hope. So I do want to set expectations. UCF can lose this football game. They could. But as these two teams are right now, this is a win I'm going to predict. And not only am I going to predict it, I'm going to predict it by 2 scores. I think UCF wins this game 30-20. Not exactly a runaway score, I understand, but I expect the defense to step up against what is the worst rush offense in the Big 12 this year at only 108 yards per game.
I do want to point out, Mike, that same poll had Oklahoma State at 12th. Just take it for what it is. For those who are listening on an audio only stream, Oklahoma State was voted 12th on that Locked On poll. So take it with a massive grain of salt, because they definitely struck out on that one. Oklahoma State, they're bad. They're real bad. But what's interesting, before we close up this this segment, Kansas State, as of this recording, is a 6-point favorite going into this game. I mean, this is got the recipe of something strange. I mean, I disagree about the top 25 thing. I mean, UCF was lucky to get 3 votes in the AP poll this week. They got none in the coaches. If they win against Kansas State, they're going to garner some votes, but they're not going to climb all the way up to the top 25. It's just too much of a hill to climb. The confirmation bias is always strong in these polls, and it's hard to
whether they will and whether they should are 2 different things, right? Like, I'm just saying this they are, in my mind, they are. So we got to put a pin in this one, because I could talk all night on this subject.
I know you can. This is like I needle you a little.
This is a good win for UCF, no matter what. But it's similar to North Carolina. I mean, a lot of teams had wrote that off. I don't know how many experts that I talked to that said UCF is not going to make a bowl game this season, and they're halfway home, and we're only 3 games in. So if there are raised expectations, if you're Scott Frost, that's a great thing, because you have given people something to expect. And that expectation, I think, is a good thing, because if you're going to be a winner, eventually you're going to have to play with that expectation at some point. And when they do, we'll see what this team is made of. But look, a lot of that expectation is driven by the play of Tayven Jackson, the guy you and I both predicted to win the starting job. Is getting it done for the Knights there at quarterback. We're going to talk about Tayven Jackson and how they keep the action in Jackson right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Plus pick awards than anyone else as of August of 2025. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft cars. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. Like UCF players, they sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Very dramatic Mazda read there.
No kidding.
Yeah. Tayven Jackson, as I mentioned, is starring for UCF right now. If you are UCF, you're not where you're at without Tayven Jackson. Versus North Carolina, 25 of 32 passing for a TD, Andrew, and my favorite stat, no interceptions.
Absolutely. That's a big one.
My favorite Tayven Jackson stat is we are 3 games into the season, for UCF, and he's got 0 interceptions, no turnovers, and 158.7 quarterback rating per ESPN. Look, Tayven Jackson is 70% on the season. Now, I'd like to see that average yards per throw go up about 1.5 yards. I'd like to see him in the 9 yards per throw range, but he's doing a great job taking care of the football, making good decisions with the football, and playing within the system. When he transferred from Indiana, you and I felt like he would win the job. We were both a little surprised to see that Cam Fancher won it, but we said, okay, maybe what Scott Frost said about his QBs, feeling good about all his QBs, bombastic side eye, not true, but he settled on Cam Fancher and ended up with Tayven Jackson. But it doesn't matter. He brought Tayven Jackson here because he saw something in him he could work with, and now we're seeing him work with it. This guy so far has shown himself to be a gamer, and I think you got to manage him a little bit in this game on the road in conference play. So I mentioned 32 throws versus North Carolina. I hoping we can get that average yard per throw up a little bit and keep him more in the 25 throw range in this one. Continue to let him not overly, but use his legs when necessary and see what he can do. I mean, I think he had a rushing touchdown on Saturday. Did he not?
He did.
He had a rushing touchdown on Saturday. He gives you something in the red zone. He can make you play 11 on 11 in red zone. I love what Tayven Jackson is doing so far. I think he's one of the most efficient QBs in the Big 12 through 3 weeks.
I mean, he's doing the job. I mean, 70% completion, no interceptions. And he's only been sacked 3 times. It was 2 in his first game at versus Jacksonville State. It was 1 against North Carolina A&T, and he didn't get sacked at all against North Carolina. Yeah, you cannot understate the value of UCF's pass protection. The offensive line has struggled for the run, but their pass protection has been outstanding, and it's opened a lot of running channels for the quarterbacks. In the season opener, Cam Fancher ran the ball a few times and gained some chunk yardage. You didn't see as much against A&T. From Jackson. You didn't need to. And of course, Jacurri Brown just, does what he does and runs the ball. But the same thing happened against North Carolina. Brown was able to run the ball when he needed to, but Fancher was the leading rusher in the game for UCF. 10 carries, 66 yards, and that highlight 13-yard touchdown where he just fooled everybody.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. And one of the questions I asked Scott Frost was about Jackson's ability to create misdirection. I mean, he fooled everyone. His touchdown pass to Kylan Fox fooled everyone. He had a great fake and just wide open. He's really good at causing that confusion. UCF's got to exploit that skill. That's hard to teach. To sell so well that the defense buys what you're selling. And if he can do that and continues his efficiency, you talk about, his average, 7.8 yards right now, 9 yards on the season as far as his passing. It's a huge no, but you know what? He said it. Scott Frost said it. You take what the defense gives you. They're going to give you that short, medium stuff. You take it. He's really good at it. And, if they're going to open up the long game, you know what? Let him stretch it out. But I know he struggled with the deep pass. It's bound to come together. You can only, you keep working on it. You keep working on it. You get your timing down. So again, it comes back to what the defense brings to the table. Kansas State has a decent, has the pass defense. They don't have the run defense. So you know what? Maybe the run game opens up and the reliance on Jackson's arm wanes a bit. Again, it all depends on what the Wildcat defense brings to this game. We have not been impressed with what they've done so far. They aren't giving a huge amount of points up, but they're not scoring enough to win games. So UCF's offense can strike at any moment.
Yeah,
and that should put a lot of fear in Kansas State right there.
I think, again, the fourth worst rush defense in the league, Kansas State. So there is an opportunity there for UCF to run the ball, control the clock on the road. This is key. Control the rock on the road, and also limit mistakes by the quarterback by keeping the ball out of harm's way. I love Jackson. I love Tayven Jackson throwing the ball deep, but on the road, you've got to be careful. You've got to manage the game, and you've got to set up winnable opportunities for your quarterback and your offense. So they're giving up points. They're giving up yards on the ground. You've got to beat them at the things that they're bad at.
Yeah. And Mike, I want to point one thing out because you mentioned time of possession. UCF's final drive against North Carolina was over 10 minutes long. It was just an incredibly long, sustained drive. Scott Frost said in his introductory press conference that it's not going to always be tempo. He's learned from the further. Scott Frost 1.0 was all about tempo. Scott Frost 2.0, they know when to pull it back and pump the brakes and slow it down. That drive was so well sustained. Even the Sickos Committee, which is an awesome Twitter group to follow. Great account. They look at some of the weird things of college football, and it's absolutely beautiful. Even they highlighted how great a drive it was because long, sustained touchdown, and it completely took North Carolina out of the game in the fourth quarter. It was over 10 minutes long. They basically owned the fourth quarter. So they can own time possession if they choose to, or they can just quick strike if that's the option that's presented to them.
Yeah, indeed. Tayven Jackson got to continue to be the player of the game every week if UCF wants to win games. You need other guys to step up, but his play allows Scott Frost to run more of his offense than any other player on the field. So he is the key here to UCF continuing to exceed expectations as the season goes on. Andrew Gluchov, senior writer from UCF Nightzone.com. Go check out his written work there. We appreciate you for joining this segment, my friend. As always, it is a pleasure. Thank you so much to everyone for making Locked On UCF your first listen of every day. It's another big moment at Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season and only on Fire TV. Catch us here tomorrow on Locked On UCF.